Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your favorite English bulletin, The News. We're broadcasting live from Theatre Studios here in Lomé. Today's headline: the 9th Pan-African Congress officially opened yesterday, December 8, 2025, in Lomé under the leadership of the President of the Togolese Council for Esazuna Nyasingwe. This historic gathering brings together African leaders, the diaspora, and Afro-descendants to promote unity, self-reliance, and Africa's influence on the global stage. Stay with us. We'll bring you all the details shortly. It is always a pleasure to have you join us. Africa is rising, united and unstoppable. With these words, the President of the Council opened the 9th Pan-African Congress in Lomé, calling on the continent and the diaspora to reclaim their voice, their narrative, and their destiny. He outlined 5 key observations to guide Africa's path towards sustainable development, unity, and global influence. Kwesi Glade presents us a summary of his opening speech at the 9th Pan-African Congress, launched yesterday in Lomé.
The Pan-African Congress opened in Lomé with a powerful and historic address from the President of the Council, setting the tone for a renewed call for African unity, sovereignty, and global influence. Speaking before African leaders, international partners, traditional chiefs, diaspora representatives, and members of the intellectual and cultural communities, he emphasized that this Congress is not a commemoration but a reaffirmation, a reclamation, and a turning point for Africa and its diaspora. The President of the Council reminded participants that Africa is no longer a silent or peripheral actor on the world stage. Young, dynamic, and increasingly assertive, the continent seeks to shape its own future with a destiny more in its hands than ever before. He stressed that no African nation can face today's challenges alone, from climate injustice to technological device, and that Pan-African cooperation is no longer merely an idea but a strategic imperative and a path through sovereignty. Highlighting Africa's absence from key global decision-making bodies, he called for reforms of multilateral institutions and reaffirmed the continent's demand for 2 permanent seats on the UN Security Council, arguing that this is not only a matter of justice for Africa, but a necessity for global stability. He also underscored the need for Africa to mobilize its own resources, its natural wealth, young talent, diaspora's knowledge systems, and cultural heritage to drive sustainable development and modern sovereignty. The President of the Council further emphasized the importance of unity extending across the continent, the diaspora, and future generations. He described the diaspora, Afro-descendants, and youth as the 3 driving forces of Africa's renewal, whose inclusion strengthened the continent's creativity, power, and global influence. At the same time, he highlighted the need to reclaim Africa's narrative and identity after centuries of distortion, ensuring that the continent's history, cultures, languages, and innovation are recognized, celebrated, and leveraged as tools of influence in the modern world. Concluding on a unifying note, he declared Lomé a symbolic hub where Africa speaks and decides for itself, stating, "We do not need to be saved, we need to be heard, and above all, we must be united because united we matter." The 9th Pan-African Congress will continue throughout the week, bringing together voices from across Africa and its global diaspora to chart and shared vision of dignity, sovereignty, and rebirth.
Que Dieu bénisse l'Afrique. Je vous remercie.
And lasting until this Friday, Lomé becomes a stage for Africa's resurgence. The 9th Pan-African Congress, hosted by Togo in collaboration with the African Union, calls for a united, strong, and self-determined Africa, a continent reclaiming its role in global affairs and shaping its own future. The opening ceremony was presided over by the president of the Togolese Council for Esesbuna Nyasingbe, and Kwesi Glay gives us a recap of the official opening ceremony.
In Lome, the flag of African nations, Latin America, Colombia, and the Caribbean are flying high. The Togolese capital has been transformed into a space of reconnection, projection, and renewal of the Pan-African ideal, a symbol of a shared destiny and a reclaiming of history driven by one man, the President of the Council for Esesbuna Nyasingbe. The 9th Pan-African Congress sets a clear direction, marking a decisive step towards solidarity, unity, and shared prosperity. The gathering in Lome aims to address the major challenges of the moment, from politics and security to health, education, and inclusive sustainable economic growth, all for a more dignified and respected Africa.
As you know, the phase that we are beginning to conclude today began when the Conference of Heads of State and Government at its 34th Ordinary Session held on 6 and 7 February 2021 in Addis Ababa declared at the initiative of the Togolese government the decade 2021-2031, decade of African roots and African diaspora, and requested that, among other activities of Pan-African Congress, be organized in Lome to rekindle the burning flame of Pan-Africanism, which is once again igniting our continent and its diaspora. To this end, we have both virtual and in-person organized in turn 6 regional pre-congress, in particular in South Africa in December 2023, in Mali in March 2024, by Morocco in April 2024, the Congo in May 2024, by Tanzania in July 2024, and finally in Bahia in Brazil in August 24. During these various meetings, high expectations were expressed and urgent yet realistic declarations and recommendations were formulated to enable our continent, its diaspora, to finally break free from this vicious cycle of subjugation and historical injustice. This pre-Congress undoubtedly constitutes landmark encounters between Africans and continent and between those on the continent and people of African descent. This warm encounter forested constructive exchange, reconciliation, and a sense of fraternity that sheds considerable light on the outline of a new architecture of collaboration and cooperation that both sides of the Atlantic Ocean can promote at the level of states and their respective people. I remain convinced that this 9th Pan-African Congress will confirm the promising beginning of the Congresses and allow us to realize the dream of our illustrious predecessor of Pan-Africanism as Kwame Nkrumah, Sheikh Anta Diop, Modibo Keïta, Thomas Sankara, etc., etc.
More than a century ago, African voices carried powerful messages that emphasize the synergy between the African continent, the African diaspora, and people of African descent. Today, more than ever, the continent is rising.
This is one-of-a-kind conference, especially at a time like this. We as Africans are looking forward to coming together in a space that allows us not only to deliberate, because we've been talking for such a long time. We want to hear actionable steps on what we can do moving forward in terms of multilateral relationships and where Africa comes into the conversation. Togo has outdone itself. First, because this is a conference that has been held in Africa for the first time, but secondly, because you have actively sponsored young people, because they are here courtesy of the Togolese government. So I'd just like to say thank you to them as well. Africa must unite, Africa must be liberated, and a mandala to all.
Africa remains a young continent rich in resources and talent. Its 1.4 billion people represent 28% of the world's populations, with people of African descent estimated at more than 350 million across the globe. Colombia, the guest country of honor, through its vice president, calls for racial equality, restitution, reconstruction, reparation, and the healing of deep historical wounds. For 5 days, doctors and sons of the African continent will exchange ideas and debate the socio-cultural, economic, and political future of Mother Africa.
And yesterday morning, just after 9 a.m., the president of the Council for Asazuna, Nyasingbe, arrived at the Palais de Congrès in Lomé for the opening of the ceremony of the 9th Pan-African Congress. He was welcomed with great enthusiasm by the local community. Let's take a look. And at the 9th Pan-African Congress in Lomé, foreign ministers and international representatives convened to chart Africa's path in global governance. They emphasized unity, self-reliance, and a stronger voice for the continent within multilateral institutions. Alpha Nishigan tells us more on this ministerial sitting.
The role and place of Africa within multilateral institutions, a crucial and timely issue, took center stage during the ministerial session dedicated to diplomats at the 9th Pan-African Congress. The topic was examined in all its dimensions as foreign affairs ministers and representatives of international organizations worked to lay the foundations of an Africa that is rising and becoming increasingly self-reliant. The presence of the African Union underscores the openness of African institutions to all recommendations, ideas, and contributions aimed at strengthening the continent's integration process. At the close of the Day 1 discussions, a restitution session was held to evaluate the progress made since previous congresses. All were convened in pursuit of the same objective: a united Africa, building its greatness and asserting its rightful place among the nations of the world.
And after inaugurating the 9th Pan-African Congress, President of the Council for Asazuna Nyasingbe departed the opening ceremony in Lomé, receiving warm applause from the attendees. Let's watch. That brings us to the end of today's edition. Thanks to my wonderful team and to you, cherished viewers, for watching. Stay tuned to our channel for more updates and keep enjoying the day. Until next time, have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.